Old Tom Gray here. Just made me a 3 foot plus bar clamp out of a hunk of pipe, some ready bolt, some old junk office furniture, a swivel pad, and a few other scraps. It's made of a 1/2 inch pipe and a 5/8 ready bolt. It is very strong. It's got an 8-inch lead screw on it, so it's got good reach around. It's adjustable. I'll show you how I made it. Alrighty, let's get started. So here's our materials. All stuff I had laying around. So a piece of 3/4 pipe, 3 feet long. Made in USA, believe it or not. Wow. That makes me happy. A 3-foot piece of 5/8 ready bolt. A 1-foot piece of 5/8 ready bolt. 4 pieces of office furniture, junk I garbage picked off some office furniture. I think it's the keyboard tray that lifts the keyboard up. I think that's the part that attaches to the desk, and these are the arm that articulates up and down. But that don't matter. It's going to be part of this. And then some hardware. There's a clamp swivel that I had from a previous project. A couple of 5/8 connector nuts, with one of them with a chunk taken out of it. A little piece of condi, and a 5/8 nut. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the mechanism working, and that involves slicing one of these connector nuts down the middle. To slice the connector nut down the middle, I'm going to start with the one that's chopped up. I just rigged a little fence here on my newly fabricated Porta Band table. I have a video for this. I'll put a link to it in the description. And I just clamped on this piece of tubing with a couple of vice grips. And now I'm just going to slice this thing down the middle. Let's work out the mechanism. So I took a piece of cardboard, just a scrap out of a 6-pack of Pacifico. Well, this is not an endorsement, but this is a pretty good beer if you like beer. So here's the piece of cardboard, and I taped the half nut to it. So just gingerly sliding it into the engaged position. Now when we're clamped, the clamp force is coming this way. So that's going to want to cam the lock nut into the ready bolt if I put a pivot here. This is the same mechanism I used on a vice grip bar clamp. I'll put a link to it in the description. So if I put a pivot here, and I'm clamping something and it's pushing there, this whole thing is twisting and forcing this half nut onto the ready bolt. When I want to move the movable jaw, again with the pivot where my finger is, if I pull forward, it disengages the half nut, and then I can slide the pipe wherever I want, and then back to clamping. It re-engages the half nut and relocks the movable jaw. To make my cardboard pattern work, I'm going to cam this up into the unlocked position. So this is now at an angle relative to the pipe. You can see it's no longer 90-degree angle. It's cammed up like that, just enough to get the half nut disengaged, maybe a little extra. And then I'm going to wrap the 6-pack around the pipe like so, and mark it like so, and then cut it off, and then that should be the size of our, or the length of our movable jaw piece. And here is our taped up 6-pack prototype. So I'm going to slide it on the taped up clamp body, put it in the engaged position like so. And as you can see, there's a big gap here and a little gap here. So when we're clamping and the force is pulling this way, pushing this way, you can see it's just going to force that half nut onto that ready bolt. When I want to readjust, I'm going to push the other way, and it's going to lift the half nut up, and we can slide it along merrily. Now, peeling the 6-pack off of the half nut, there's my pattern for the movable jaw and the clutch. It's called the movable jaw clutch. Fits almost perfectly on this piece of junk office furniture. So I'm going to knock the powder coat off this and cut it to that pattern. Form the jaw clutch. I'm just taking a piece of 1/2-inch pipe and my new piece of cut sheet metal. I marked it down the middle. I'm going to line the centers roughly. Put that in the vise. Like so. Reef it down nice and tight, and then take my Bell telephone persuader and bend it on over. To bend the other side, I'm just going to nest this piece of square tubing next to the pipe. Get it aligned on the center, roughly. Reef it down. And bang it over. And there it is. Not perfect, but it'll do the job. This gauge is up at 12, so that's pretty stout material. And now for a test fit. So here's our movable jaw clutch. Knock it on there. I'll clamp our half nut. It's with a pair of vice grips, like so. And there it is in the released position. so it travels nicely. Here it is in the locked position. So that thing's not going anywhere. But first I'm going to weld the half nut onto the clutch strap. I'm going to cut this side down a little bit so they're even before I tack this together. A little bit of joint prep with a file. Want to move it, clamping. All right, I'm going to set my angle gauge on the clutch using my little combo square to that angle. And I'm going to put the plate for the lower jaw in place and then offset the nut 2.5 inches on center. So roughly there. Which is about 2 1/8. Considering the thickness of the nut. I'm going to mark the clutch plate, or the jaw plate. Probably can't see that green on black, but I'm going to go cut that off. All laid up. I knocked the powder coat off with a little piece of plate. There's the connector nut that's going to hold the hand screw. So I'm going to go fab up the fixed jaw. To size the fixed jaw, I put the lead screw into the connector nut and put on the flex swivel pad. And I'll just mark the quarter plate held snug up against the pipe and cut it off. To get maximum capacity, I'm going to attach the ready bolt to the pipe a few inches away from the end here so that the clutch has room to move, but I'm not wasting ready bolt where I can't get to it with the clutch, so the clutch will only grab where it's available. At the other end, I'm going to place the fixed jaw just past the end of the ready bolt. So that way I'm getting max length of the ready bolt and max clamp distance. So I can chop the pipe off there. I'm going to use this piece of 1-inch pipe nipple for a clamp handle. It's nice and big. So I'm just going to chop the threaded pieces off. To get the threads on the handle, on the clamp handle, I'm just going to press that 5/8 nut in there and weld it in place. Now I'm going to tack everything together. To make sure I got a good reaction pad, I just clamped in the little fixed jaw with the swivel pad and just taped it up to protect from spatter. Here's the clutch all welded up and ground off the welds a little bit. Now I'm going to sculpt it with the bandsaw. Just knock some of these corners off and neaten it up a little bit, dress it up a little bit. Here's the fixed jaw. Again, I just knocked the welds down just a little bit. Now I'm going to sculpt this with the bandsaw. Now for a little grinding, just to dress it up a little bit. Dress up the edges a little bit. Now just a coat of Blaster dry lube on everything. Okay, final assembly. First, I'm going to put the lead screw or the jacking screw into the movable jaw. Then I'm going to put the swivel pad on. Then the jam nut. Then the handle. Then I'm going to slide the movable jaw and the clutch onto the bar. Put the pipe cap over the end. Let's try it out. I'm just using this piece of angle iron for a caul, but let's pretend we're making a tabletop out of these 5 boards. So here's our clamp. We just put it in place. If we want to adjust it to this width, we adjust it. Reefer down. And I can already see the glue squeezing out. I'm going to call this a success. And this thing is hell for stout. This thing's really strong. With these two, with this pipe and this 5/8 rod, 5/8 ready bolt, this thing is hell for stout. Well, I'm going to call this one good. This has been a success. This thing's really heavy duty. Works pretty well. I'm happy with it. Might make another one so it's got a so I can have a pair of them. So I'm going to end it here, and it's on to the next project. I'll see you there and then.